So the title of my presentation is In the World, but Not of the World, the Moral Economy of Pentecostal Salvation Discourses in Kenya. The presentation overview, I'll have some introduction and background, moral economy, discourses in Africa and Kenya, the way the concept has been used, and the studies done about it. Pentecostal salvation discourses in Kenya. I'm gonna take a brief case study of Kibra in Nairobi, then offer a conclusion. So by way of introduction, I'm saying that moral economy, a collective expression of values that relate to attainment of social goods and the resilience of a community, is conceptually utilized in this paper to examine whether Pentecostal salvation discourses can be agencies that propagate religious reforms that would usher in an alternate society in a liberalized capitalistic economy. So as a background, I can say that the aftermath of neoliberal economic adjustments that destabilized economies in Sub-Saharan African countries in the 1980s through 2000 led to unprecedented growth and spread of Pentecostalism, which of course factors that include democratization, globalization, economic liberalization, raised and failed expectations really were some of the combined factors that attracted many to Pentecostalism. And actually this situation offered Pentecostalism a space to propagate a situation in which the possibility of rapid enrichment, of amassing a fortune by largely invisible methods is always palpable, present, and seemingly reachable to many. And in that context, actually poverty is a key issue in Africa. Decades of deliberate and strategic socioeconomic policies have not yielded much. And even upon succeeding, the colonial administration, the African governments promised a lot, material well-being, through socioeconomic development, but half a century later, the continent is perpetually witnessing blatant betrayal of dreams. And religious organizations, just like African government that succeeded the colonial governments, continue to promise poverty eradication by divine means. And the neo-Pentecostal variant of Pentecostalism particularly is renowned for its promise of wealth, health, and prosperity through supernatural divine power. But the expediency of these promises to alleviate poverty and bring about social transformation is debatable. According to the UN, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals of 2019, 736 million people globally are living in extreme poverty. And Sub-Saharan Africa has a poverty rate of about 41%, of which 27 out of 28 poorest countries are in Africa. Approximately 56% of this are concentrated in Nigeria, Congo, Ethiopia, and Nigeria, as you know, is like the capital city of Pentecostalism in Africa. Coming to Kenya, a recent report indicated that 80% majority of Kenyans are either near poverty line or income poor, and World Bank observed that this would especially increase in urban from 2.3 million to 3.8 million, that is between 2015 and 2016. And poverty continues to be a huge problem over the years in Kenya. But as poverty prevalence increases over the years, Pentecostal churches in Kenya tend to focus more on poverty and poverty alleviation, mainly espoused in their sermons. And Pentecostal discourses promise an alternate community and structures that ameliorate socioeconomic existential crisis. And constant in the discourses is the functional promise of salvation goods, often mediated by miracles, healing, and a transformed self and prosperity. But Pentecostal salvation discourses, in my view, are attempts to utilize its moral economy to reimagine development trajectory in Kenya. Pentecostal moral economy, the study argues, offers personal potency, but not social transformation. It is therefore incapable to offer actually an alternate society as it promises. through the discourses. That the reason is the impersonality of the neoliberal and capitalistic nature of Kenya's economy can best be understood by the emergence of Pentecostal visions of moral economy and its development trajectory. So in summary, the structural adjustments of programs in 1980s, 90s to 2000 brought about neoliberal economy. And during this period, there was Pentecostal explosion in the country. Consequently, the appeal of Pentecostalism is clearly linked to the political and socio-economic crises that have caused extreme anguish in Sub-Saharan Africa. And moral economy perspectives has been used to study some issues. And of course, Thompson's, E. Thompson's is known as the father of moral concept, the moral concept theory. He studied how the peasants collectively defended their cultural norms in regard to the economy in context of the rise capitalistic economy and its impactful pressures. But of course, this is contextual. It's not similar in every place. So in Thompson's view, social and moral norms shape economic practices and relationship as it defines an understanding of what good behavior is. So the moral economy of market structures is shaped by beliefs and norms, and in terms of what really is the standard way to do things. So moral economy concepts has increasingly been broadened to encompass analysis of diverse social groups and understanding. In Kenya, I can say in Africa, it has been used to study the moral economy of corruption, poverty, sexualities. Recently, Chisman et al. Had the moral economy of elections in Africa. And in reference to Kenya, moral economy has focused on stock theft in colonial Kenya and moral economy of Mau Mau in terms of moral economy of ethnicity. So the core conception of moral, the core assumption of moral economy is that all economic practices have moral reinforcements that configure it. And economic discourses and practices in a liberal capitalistic context can therefore be analyzed from the perspective of the actor in regard to what is acceptable or improper in market practice and relationships thereby. Now, bringing it to bear on moral economy in Pentecostal discourses, Pentecostal discourses, especially in regard to moral economy, offers metaphysical interpretations that tends to explain why prevailing economic conditions such as poverty and underdevelopment exist. With the undeliverable salvation goods, often nuanced in miracles, power, and promises of health and wealth, Pentecostalism has, through poverty and development discourses, altered visions of moral economy by proffering an alternate development trajectory that cushions against hard economic realities. In other words, there's another way of gaining tangible material wealth without hard work or good strategies. And the vision of Pentecostal economy is spiritual economy that God bequeaths health, wealth, and immeasurable prosperity to believers. And with many false starts and empty promises by post-colonial governments in Africa, the emergence of Pentecostalism, I argue, offer a promise of attainment of these things in context of neoliberal economy. And so the core question of the paper is this: but can Pentecostalism evidentially be a site of action invested in and appropriated by believers? Can it be a space of production with tangible life-changing consequences socially? Does its salvation discourses offer an alternate moral economy in neoliberal and capitalistic context? And I want to use an example of studies that were done in Kibra, Nairobi. This is a picture of Kibera slum, which is actually known as one of the biggest slums in Africa. That is how it is. And looking at some of the studies done on Pentecostalism, there's a way that the Pentecostal hope is intangible. It cannot, like Gurume argues that Pentecostalism is a profit-making organization that diverts people's attention not to see their root cause of poverty and inequality. And the same sentiments have been echoed by Marshall, Gifford, and Uka. And basing on the foundation of key scholars like Freeman, Toragasei, Musoni, Gurume theorizes the possible role of Pentecostalism in development process. but this is not in terms of material benefits or change, but giving them social capital. And Collins Smith actually did his research in Kenya's Kibera slum and found that there is very little evidence to show that Pentecostalism improved the living conditions of people. They rather create social and spiritual capital, which of course this social and spiritual capital are ineffective. They cannot offer an upward mobility. So to some degree, it assists in coping with economic insecurity and fragility of the context. In another study by Deacon, he argues that Kibera's living condition and the capitalistic nature of Kenya's economic system cannot allow Pentecostal proposition to thrive. And I quote him, he says, in practice, moving out of a situation of social exclusion in Kibera is immensely difficult. Instead, it is his contention that the Pentecostal adherents with whom he worked with utilize their faith, religious language, and rituals in attempts to express, understand, survive, and control, rather than change their life worlds. So the common language in Kibera, spiritually from the Pentecostal perspective, you hear words like people are burdened by Satan, God is called upon to deliver people from poverty, violence, and witchcraft. And people are feeling beaten, whipped by sickness and poverty. And pastors there would say that the journey is long, God is part of us, and that does give them hope, but it does not provide what is tangible, as some scholars would suggest. So in my argument, I'm using the concepts of salvation goods, which Professor Uka says is a concept derived from Max Webster's sociology and is used interchangeably with salvation means, salvation goals, religious goods to mean what people can gain from religious groups. And a prominent German sociologist of religion, Martin Riesenbrod, in his books, Promise of Salvation, is of the opinion that religion, while the function of religion changes from one society to another, the promise of religion is constantly unchanging to offer salvation promises. Religious promise to ward off misfortune, to cope with crises. And that is what I'm saying Pentecostalism is doing the same today in the community. And the bottom line of all these studies is that prosperity discourse within Pentecostalism is but a framework that assuages pressure of modernization and socioeconomic challenges, helpful in coping but not tangibly significant for social transformation. And using critical, what I term as critical discourse analysis, I say that discourse is more than just a way of, it is a way of being, it is a way of forming life, creating meaning. And in conclusion, as I raise the question, can Pentecostalism and its salvation discourse be a space of production with tangible life-changing consequences? And I say no. Pentecostalism salvation discourses offer a moral economy of being in the world. It primarily orients its adherents to live now and here. It creates an inward cosmology that, though it does not transform lives, mundane challenges, or bring about tangible social transformation, it offers a sense of good life, not necessarily material. It offers a perspective, an alternative to what the world provides. It is a living hope. Actually, it is a metaphorical triumph. And that is looking at the Pentecostal discourses in Kenyan context in terms of moral economy and its promise of salvation. Thank you.